everybody, JP here once again, and today we are going to talk about room mics, such a huge part of Brendan O'Brien's drum sound, and we're going to talk about some of the compressors that he favors for them and impact that they can have on these mics throughout a mix. And this is the track we've been using. It's got a stereo room mic and also a mono room mic, or a front of kit mic, sometimes that's called. So we could really get into some fun things with both of those. Brendan, going way back, was a big fan of the 1178 compressor on his stereo rooms. And the 1178 was the stereo version of the final revision of the 1176. That would be the H revision, which was internally, I believe, exactly the same as the G blackface versions, but had a silver face, not to be confused with the original blue stripe silver face. That was completely different. That was like version A. Versions G and H went with transformerless input, and they lost the Class A discrete output amplifier stage and went with integrated circuits. So that was kind of a move towards the future. That was like transitioning from the 70s to the 80s for URI. And the 1178, Bob Clearmountain prefers 1178 compressors to 1176s, even for mono tasks. He's known to use 1178s on snare drums and things like that. So yeah, they have their own thing going on, but it's very similar to that final revision of the 1176. So anyway, I thought this was a good opportunity to check out this Pulsar 1178 plugin. I just downloaded a trial of it and I'm digging it. And we're going to compare it to the closest plugin to the H revision. This would be the Blackface Revision E plugin from Universal Audio. So the next thing, Brendan kind of went from the 1178s to Distressors on his room mics. I thought we might try this XTComp by Kiive Audio because it has the British mode on it, and the Universal Audio Distressor, the official Distressor plugin, doesn't have the British mode. So I just learned about this plugin the other day. I didn't realize it had the British mode, and I thought it would be fun to compare this to the 1176s. And then also Southern Tracks had a bunch of these ADR 760 Compex compressors. So we've got the Kiive version of it here, which is fantastic. And then we've also got, this is the Kiive ADC1 comp limiter, which is their version of the Chandler TG1. And this is another unit that Southern Tracks had at Brendan's disposal. So we're going to go through all those and then a couple other things that I like, and then we're going to talk about the mono mic as well. So first, let me remind you what this sounds like. If you don't already have it ingrained in your skull like I do. So I am using this Pultec filter at 8K. And if you remember from our previous videos, I mentioned two reasons I'm using this filter on the room mics. First, it's to let the overheads have their own space in the mix. And that way the room mics would have like a lower space in the sonic spectrum. But also because Brendan favored Coles 4038s for his stereo room mics, and they have a very gentle roll-off on the top. So I thought this would be the best way to get it. So let's dig right in with this Pulsar 1178. I've got the all buttons in pressed, and an attack and release that work really well with this particular track. I thought this was kind of the sweet spot. The all button really has a nice thing going on with this. And it's also got some saturation options. Tape has a little bit of dirt going on. Triode is probably my favorite. form is really nice too. Clip, you could hear a little bit more in the top end, but I still like it a lot. Yeah, you could really hear tape has that little bit of distortion on the kick drums. Yeah, the other ones kind of let that through a little better. So yeah, good stuff, right? Now, just for fun, let's compare it. Oh, by the way, the Pulsar has a lot of other stuff going on. Sidechain EQ, and a really nice readout there. For today's purposes, I'm only going to talk about it in its 1178 traditional settings so that we can compare it to this other one. So now we're on the blackface, and I did calibrate the input and output for the same amount of gain reduction and the same amount of output level, just like that 1176 kick snare bus video we did a few weeks ago. Really similar. The Pulsar does something different in the bottom end that I like. Yeah, the Pulsar is a little thicker in the bottom. This is without any saturation. And then on this, now I'm on max, which is their version of the nuke ratio, and I've got British mode on, but I've got everything else off. I have no saturation, and I have this bottom section turned off. So let's compare this to the 1176s. So that's really, really close. But of course, with this or any Distressor, you could add the Distortion 3, which makes a nice difference. I can kind of see why Brendan gravitated towards the Distressor, just for that little extra bit of saturation. And then on this one, we've got the little Fatso simulator on too. So they're all very similar, and they all have their little subtleties. I do think the Pulsar has something going in the low mids that's a little different and nice. But of course with the Kiive, you could really smooth out the top with that distortion and saturation. And the UA is the UA. It's just a classic. But now, let's get to this one. Oh yeah. You know what? Let me just talk about this unit for a minute before we get any further. So the ADR Compex 760 circuit was actually the same circuit used in the Helios compressors in various Helios consoles, but particularly in the Rolling Stones mobile truck that was used to record Led Zeppelin 4 and When the Levee Breaks. So these compressors are the same exact circuit that was used for When the Levee Breaks. It was actually licensed out to several companies. Calrec had a version of the 760, and I think Audix did as well. A lot of stuff like that was going on in the British audio scene of the 70s. But the really cool thing about the ADR is all these other little features it has. So I'm compressing right now 20 to 1. Really pushing the input is really fun to do on these too. I'm on the slowest attack. Now I'm on 2.5 milliseconds, and you could go all the way down to quarter of a millisecond. That's almost like a broadcast level fast attack. But 25 milliseconds, the slowest option, lets in the most kick drum, which I really like. But here's the fun. You can turn on the gate and kind of get a rhythmic thing happening with it. There we go. You can kind of time the release. Slowest attack seems to work best. And you can play around. There we go, that's pretty cool. Get like a stuttery thing happening. So that's one of the cool things you could do with this unit. It's also got a limiter in there. If you really want to cream the transients. But I kind of just like the 20-to-1 compression. Still pretty cool at 10-to-1. Oh, I didn't mean to jump it back down there. And then one other one that they had at Southern Tracks, the Chandler TG-1. I pretty much just like this one on limit mode for room mics. Fast attack, slow release is kind of cool. Well, slower release, it's not really slow. In general, this compressor is a little more flexible on slower drum parts than this, or should I say less busy drum parts. But there's still some cool stuff here. You know, I believe the original EMI compressor was modeled after the Fairchild 670. So it's got some similar attack and release dynamics. Yeah. Mouse is jumpy tonight. And then one last thing, just a personal favorite of mine, NEVE 2254s. What I love about this is that even at relatively lower ratios, lower than the other things we're looking at, it has such a nice grab to it. I'm on fast attack, which is what the original would have had, a fixed fast attack. This one offers a slow attack. But the grab of it on those transients is my favorite. Auto can be really nice on these too. But on a drum part like this, the fastest attack is kind of my favorite. Yeah, even 400's a little too slow. So now let's talk about this mono mic. This is probably like a U47 or something similar right in front of the kit because it has so much kick drum in it. I am EQing it a little bit. Kind of doing that simultaneous boost and cut on the low shelf with the Pultec. And boosting a little 3K and also attenuating up at 20, kind of smooth it out. That's without. It really tightens it up nicely. And then good old-fashioned Bomb Factory 660. There's nothing like that for me on a mono mic. Especially when he's on the ride. It reminds me of Sleep Now in the Fire from Battle of Los Angeles. I think there's a similar mic that's very prominent in that mix. Once you get off time constant 1, it starts to get a little too slow for me. And then just for fun, this is just all 4 buttons in, similar settings to the stereo. But it also works really nicely on this mic. It's all about getting the attack and release timed out. You just gotta feel that. Of course, with the Fairchild, you're stuck with the constants, but there is something a little special to the time constants on there anyhow. And here, let's bring the stereo back in here. So there's the stereo and the mono together, and depending on what kind of song you're working on, this could be your drum sound. And if you need a little more direct mic, you could just kind of sneak in the close kick and snare mics. Obviously, they're not nearly as high as they were in our other videos. So yeah, that's a nice little overview of some room mic techniques that Brendan O'Brien has used over the years. Somebody asked me if I could talk about the gated snare, creating a natural reverb from gating the room mics off the snare. And it didn't really work on this track just because the drums are kind of busy, but I'm putting together something to demonstrate that. It's really tough to find a track with the right room mics for, but I think I'm building something that I think is going to make some people happy when we get around to that. So that'll be coming up soon. And please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Can't wait to hear from everyone. All right. Thanks again, everyone.